Hello, greetings, ANCAP Radio. Welcome to another action-packed episode. We are getting things fired up as our guests make their way to the stage now as we prepare a proper warm-up. And for those tuning in live and on the replay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, the retweet button. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, and we're joined today by Jeff Berwick and Doug Casey, who will be here momentarily. But Anarchapulco is around the corner. So we want to make sure if you are not familiar with Anarchapulco or you haven't checked it out yet, go to anarchapulco.com. We're going to have a link down below. That's Jeff's annual conference. It's awesome. I've been to it multiple times. Highly endorse it. Always a good time and great ANCAPs coming together, talking about how we can, excuse me, overcome the state, right? Or just live the best life possible. So as we're waiting for Doug to get here, Jeff, it's great to see you again. How is everything? How's the family? How's Mexico?
Everything's great, thank you. It's been an interesting couple of months with the Cat 5 hurricane, I put in air quotes, weather weapon that they attacked us with in October. But we've mostly recovered from it now. So, yeah, we're getting into the holiday spirit here at the house. And the baby's doing great, the family's doing great. So, yeah, we're doing great.
Love hearing that. And that's probably an area we can dive into to kick it off, especially maybe before Doug gets here, because I was observing just high level what was taking place there in Acapulco. It seemed, from what I was seeing, the content and what you're putting out there, a little bit of a state-run initiative to change the way the city has been structured previously.
That was one of the things that we uncovered afterwards, is that there was a UK think tank that had denoted 3 cities in Mexico to become smart cities. And it's Querétaro, Puebla, and Acapulco. But I think it was quite a bit more than that, though. I think it's Mexico has not gone along with a lot of the globalist agendas, actually almost none of them. Mexico has talked about joining BRICS. Mexico didn't do anything with the COVIDs. The president and even the health minister in Mexico said that it's all a big pharma scam. They didn't put one law nationally on the COVIDs. They kicked out things like Monsanto and all that kind of stuff and didn't go along with their GMO stuff. They haven't gone along with the climate stuff. So all of that combined and many other things as well, I think they saw it as they have to do something about Mexico. So now the front runner for the election coming up next year is a Jewish climate scientist. So named Scheinbaum, very Mexican name, of course. And we'll see what happens. But I think they really wanted to sort of attack Mexico for what they've been doing, which is just doing the right thing and standing up to all these evil things they're trying to do. And we saw actually in February of this year, 3 Pemex refineries all blow up in different parts of Mexico, all on the same day. So that's probably directed energy weapons. Then in October, 3 Cat 4 and 2 Cat 4s and 1 Cat 5 hurricanes hit the 3 major centers on the west coast of Mexico, all in October. The first one was in Cabo. The second one, and it was a direct hit. The second one was the Puerto Vallarta, which was a direct hit, Category 4. And then, of course, the big one was Acapulco, Category 5 on October 25th. And there was no warning for it whatsoever. Even the hurricane sort of people had no idea, even a few hours before, that there even was a hurricane. It turned from nothing into Cat 3 in a couple of hours. And then just a few people started to notice it. Then I started listening to those few people just on the internet who were tracking these sort of things. I said, "What is this thing?" And they said, "Now it's Cat 4, and it looks like it's going to Cat 5." And they said it just took a direct right turn, and it's headed directly to Acapulco Bay. And we had about 3 hours to tell people to try to get ready for it. Most people didn't listen to me, which is like the story of my life. But the one person listened, and they got out of Acapulco, and their house was completely destroyed. They might have died if they stayed. And since then, we've just been raising a lot of money. We raised over $400,000 from mostly anarcho-capitalists that's using things like Monero and cryptocurrencies, a lot of it. Monero was the top cryptocurrency used, over $80,000 in Monero. And we spent the last 2 months helping everyone in the city recover from it. And the first month or so was incredibly tough. There was no power, there was no water, there was no signal. There was no help from the government, which is pretty normal in Mexico, and it's actually totally fine with me. But they do have the resources. They do steal stuff from people. You think it'd be nice if they helped out a little bit, but they didn't. But all private organizations came in. Ours was the first and the biggest, and we've been working for like 2 months there. There was other ones like the Global Central Kitchen or something like that. They came in and helped a lot. Red Cross, which is a private organization run by actually good people in Mexico, which is not normal for Red Cross, they helped out a lot. And the private companies, the power companies, came in almost within days and started helping restore power. So it was all private entities, which is exactly all we talk about here at ANCAP radio type stuff that helped the city recover. And now it's actually pretty good. It's actually getting pretty good now. We've helped a lot of people survive it. We've even rebuilt a lot of homes and things like the Secret Garden where we hold Anarchapulco. They've been working just like crazy, and it's already starting to look decent. The Bambuda, where we have ayahuasca and DMT and yoga and all that kind of stuff, they've been rebuilding, and everything should be ready by February, and it's actually looking really good. So, yeah, it's been a crazy few months here.
Yeah, and you've been keeping busy, and thanks for the context there too, because I definitely didn't know a lot of what you shared there. It's interesting how, you mentioned Israel decides to get involved with Mexico too. I'm sure that's a rabbit hole we could go down at some point in this conversation today as well. But Doug has joined us, and also for those, excuse me, just tuning in, and I heard your voice might sound a little scratchy there too, Jeff. I'm just getting over a cough, but thank you everyone for tuning into ANCAP Radio. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, and we're with Jeff Berwick and Doug Casey today. If you're live or on the replay, be sure to hit the like button, the retweet button, and share this with your networks, and follow everyone else up here on stage. There is a link below, by the way, for Jeff's upcoming conference in Acapulco, Mexico, which, again, I'm sure we'll talk about more here today. But yeah, Doug, great to see you as well now. Any thoughts to kick today off, maybe even just based on what Jeff was sharing?
Well, kudos to Jeff and his organization for doing what they did in Acapulco. I think that's absolutely outstanding. Well, what more can I say about that? Jeff, I'm wondering, what do you hear about the migrants that come through the Darien Gap coming through Mexico? What do you hear about them firsthand?
It's I live a pretty sheltered life. I don't leave my house. I don't watch Mexican media. I don't really talk to too many people. But I do travel around quite a bit. For the last 2 years, I've been traveling all over Mexico. I've never seen them. I don't know where they come from or how they get to the U.S. border. I don't really hear anyone talking about them. That when I do talk to people, it's such a strange thing that there seems to be lots, like hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, I don't know the amount, flowing through Mexico somehow. A lot of them seem to have United Nations credit cards. They somehow get to the border without hardly anyone really noticing them. The only places I've seen is probably what other people have seen, which is usually on like Twitter. Someone will post a video of a bunch of migrants all jumping on a train and just going just like you used to do in the old days, Doug, just, hopping on it. But as far as the actual migrant sort of stuff that you're seeing at the U.S. border, it's really a non-event in Mexico. It's almost like it's almost like they're invisible. I don't know what routes they're taking, and maybe I'm just ignorant of it. Maybe there are some issues in certain areas, but I haven't heard, I keep track, and I talked to a lot of people in Mexico. I've never heard anyone once say I saw a whole bunch of migrants passing through. It's almost like a magic trick how they're getting them up there.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Another Zoom call that I'm on every week. One of the usual guys on it is a ex-soldier named Michael Yon, Y-O-N. You can look him up on the internet. And So I've listened to what he says on the Zoom call with about 30 other guys. They're all fund managers and the like. A lot of ex-West Pointers among them. Anyway, the point he makes is that he spends a lot of time at the Darien Gap, which is where they transfer from Colombia, and spend 3 or 4 days walking through really rough territory, uh, getting into Panama and then moving up from there. And he spends a lot of time on the U.S.-Mexican border as well. And what he says is pretty much what that these people do from one source or another, get debit cards, they get cell phones. And what he says is that the numbers of people going across the Darien Gap on their way to the U.S., they don't want to stay in Central America or Mexico because there's no welfare benefits in Central America or Mexico. I mean, there's nothing to keep them there. He says that the current flow rate across the gap is like 20,000 people per day, and it's accelerating. It's going up. And I just read in the U.S. media today that even the New York Times, I think they said that it's gone up to 10,000. Jan says it's like 20,000. So this is a veritable invasion of the U.S. And I wonder, where the hell are these people going and where are they staying? And I hear that they are taking over Central Park to put up tents in Central Park. And that can't be any fun in the winter. And then getting fed and sanitary facilities. I mean, this is rather insane. And there's not the kind of reporting on it that you might expect if, in fact, 5 or 6 million new people, mostly young military-age males, are crossing the border every day. That's why I brought it up. But I wouldn't expect that you'd necessarily hear anything about it in Mexico because it's just a transit point, and Acapulco wouldn't be on the roadway or the railway as it is.
Yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum to me where they're coming from and how they get through Mexico. Like I said, I really haven't heard anyone see them or talk to them. I know that, like, you see a lot of them as well. The ones I've seen seems to be quite a mix. It seems like it used to be a lot of mostly Latin American people, mostly from Venezuela, and El Salvador and places like that. And but now it seems to be a lot more dark-skinned people, and they seem to be from Africa. And now there's a lot of Chinese people. So this has to be organized somehow. Just knowing Mexico the way I do, I wouldn't doubt it if they just don't really care, because the government doesn't really do much in Mexico, which is great. And as long as they're going to go up to the U.S., they probably just stay out of it. That's my my take from what I know about Mexico. But it's clear that at this point, especially with what's going on in Europe as well, that these are basically an invasion of people from outside of these Western countries into these Western countries to put them all on things like welfare, like you mentioned. That's why they wouldn't stay in a place like Mexico. Like, if they stayed here, they'd have to earn some money, and if they didn't speak Spanish, they'd have a really hard time. And if they didn't adhere to like how most people act in Mexico, they'd probably have a really, really bad time, like a really bad time. Like, people would take care of it themselves. That's how Mexico is. So I think from everything going on, it's quite clear. This is an agenda. This has been going on for quite a while. This is a lot of George Soros open borders type stuff, that they want to bring in millions of people from these countries. Most of them seem to be just single males. It didn't used to be that way as much when I looked. It used to be kind of like men, women, and children migrating from mostly a place like Venezuela, but now it appears to be mostly just men from China, Africa, all these places. And we've seen that happening in Europe so much. And I believe it's all part of putting these people into place. I don't know how organized it is, but for whatever happens next, they'll probably be trying to do some sort of massive civil uprising type chaos, riots, things like that. We've already seen that in Europe with France this summer. And all it takes for them to set them off is to say that the police beat up one of the migrants or killed one of the migrants, and all of these people just go crazy and just start burning everything down. I think that's all part of the agenda. But as far as how Mexico is related to it, I'd say it's almost not barely related at all, in that they're not really doing anything. I know that some places like the U.S., a lot of people will say I'm so angry at Mexico because they're not stopping these migrants. It's like, well, Mexico is a very free place. They don't get involved in anything. If people are passing through on their way somewhere, as long as they keep going, no one really cares, as long as they just keep going. If they stayed, then they'd probably have to deal with whatever issues arose. But thanks to the fact that Mexico is such a much more free market country than the U.S., with no things like welfare, hardly anyone pays taxes, there's no government involvement in hardly anything. There's nothing for those sort of people to kind of leech off of. So they go to these very socialist countries like the U.S., where they can get all this free stuff. And, just to finish off, I'll just say that whenever I hear Americans talking about how something needs to be done, it's like, well, get rid of the welfare state. That's when you're giving away free stuff. Like, what do you think's going to happen?
No, you're absolutely right. This problem would not be a problem if it was like in the 19th century, when people came over from Europe. Well, first of all, the people that came over to the U.S. from Europe were of the same culture, more or less the same religion, more or less the same ethnicity, and there was nothing to support them except going out and working somehow. But this is very different. What's going on here, and they're being actively garnered from the highways and byways of the world by these freebies that they're given. I mean, they're given free food and free shelter, and it's got to be building up to a social explosion at some point. And I'm really wondering, what are those people going to do? Because they don't speak the language, and they probably aren't learning the language. I mean, one of the most interesting things was when 200,000 Somalis were imported to the U.S. a couple of decades ago, mostly to Minnesota, Minneapolis, actually, and Portland, Maine. I mean, these are people that totally alien in every way. Who paid for their flights over and settled them? I mean, this is all a mystery. It's never been really investigated, to my knowledge.
Well, there's been a fair amount of just independent reporting. That's really the only kind of real media we have now, is independent people. And of course, they're trying to, I think, who was it? The World Economic Forum came out, or Al Gore or someone, and said that they have to get rid of all alternative media because we're the actual only real media that there is. And there's lots of people documenting lots of stuff. There's people who've been showing that they get debit cards from the United Nations. It's a few $1,000s a month. In the U.S., there's actually been a woman in the U.S. who just has been going to the airports, and a lot of the flights are just full of these migrants, and on their boarding pass it says no name given. They get they even sit in business class and stuff. This is all most likely being paid for by essentially the globalists, the cult, the people who kind of run almost everything, the United Nations, the CIA, all that kind of stuff, George Soros, they're all involved in the same types of stuff. And it's quite clear what they're doing now. This is an actual invasion. Now, as anarcho-capitalists, do we really care about an invasion of a country? I don't particularly, but I can see what's being done, and I can see what's going to happen. And this is going to be just mass chaos and mass problems. Then you realize that they're trying to really push this anti-white agenda, that all white people are evil, while they're importing non-white people into all these white countries. I think in Ireland, they went from I don't know the numbers at all off the top of my head, but it was something like 80-90% of the people in Ireland were white. Now, like it's 30% or something. And most of these migrants are staying at like hotels that most Irish people can't even afford. Same in Canada. People can't afford anything there. This is actually the globalist takeover that we've been talking about for decades. It's rolling into motion now. And one of the things they're trying to do is what I wrote about in my book with Charlie Robinson, which you wrote the foreword for, Doug, which is the controlled demolition of the American empire. It's the controlled demolition of the West, and it's a agenda. And this is just one facet of it, and it's going to be absolutely explosive. And of course, one of the other things they're doing it for is because of democracy, that wonderful democracy, right? So they're bringing all these people in to vote for whoever gives them free stuff, which is the absolute end game of what we've been talking about for a long time, is once the government is just, all it's doing is giving people who don't work free stuff and stealing from everyone who actually produces anything, it's basically the end of that civilization.
Yeah, that's right. It is interesting that the Arab and Muslim people aren't trying to get into Saudi Arabia or the Emirates or other Arab countries wholesale. They're trying to get into Europe, into Western countries. Nobody's trying to get into China or migrating to India. They're all going to welcoming Western countries. And Western civilization is what's changed the world for the best everywhere. Technology, freedom, these will all be washed away as these people from cultures that they're just, they don't know about these things. It's not part of their cultures. It's very, very disturbing. And the fact that they're trying to do this all at once, I mean, things change over time. Everything changes over time. But when you have a very, very quick, tumultuous change to something very different, it can turn into chaos, and that can be violent. So one of the many reasons to believe that 2024 is going to be a very unpleasant year from just about every point of view I can think of. I mean, this is just one. I brought this one up because you're in Mexico, and I thought I'd ask you if you see any of these migrants where you are. But Mexico is a big country, so probably not. They're like, ants going from one place to another. They stay on one road to get from point A to point B. But there's got to be about a dozen things that can go catastrophically wrong in 2024, which is an election year in the U.S., among other countries, which makes it especially dangerous because the world's so highly politicized.
It's going to be an interesting one for sure. In one moment, Jeff, I just want to make sure because we got a lot of new people tuning in here, guys. So again, welcome to ANCAP Radio. If you're new here or listening on the replay, hit that like button, the retweet button, follow Jeff, Doug, and check out the links below in the thread. Everything that's been referenced here today is down below in the thread. And Jeff, you were I'm going to pass it back to you now. You're about to comment on Doug's take on 2024.
Yeah, I would just kind of say that I don't necessarily look at any of this as being bad. I just actually accept everything for what it is. And I think there's going to be so many opportunities. But I think for people who think that things are going to go kind of the way they've been going for the last few decades and, live in a city and, save up and put their kids into a communist college and then work for 40 years in a cubicle and sit in their traffic jams and then get their pension. All that stuff's gone. That stuff's over. And for those kind of people that cannot accept that is all over now, it's going to be very, very hard for them. And I see Matt Smith's here on the call. You're in, I think, Argentina right now, Doug. Matt's in Uruguay. I'm in Mexico. We've already basically shown with our actions what we think is the right things to be doing at this moment in time. And you're all on farms. I'm building my ranch. My ranch is nearly done now. I think this is going to, and this is all a planned implosion as well, in my opinion. It's all in my book, The Controlled Demolition, that they've been wanting to do this for a long time, and there's even more nefarious reasons that they're doing it. That you can get into, like it's wild, all the reasons, but we're headed. This is basically the apocalypse. This is the lifting of the veil. People are starting to realize the truth of what all these things are now and what these people really are doing. And they are going full throttle right now. They know their time is up. For many reasons. I think by 2025, 2028, basically all kinds of sort of astrological reasons, even climate change, but actual real climate change caused by natural sort of cycles that actually the old cultures all used to know about, but we don't know about anymore because now we have climate scientists. But we're told that we have to stop driving cars and eat bugs and all that kind of stuff. But this is there's so many things going on, and for that reason, I totally agree that there's no way 2024 is going to be a boring year. Just look at the last 3 or 4 years. If I would have said 5 or 10 years ago that Bill Gates is going to try to kill everyone on Earth, and most people are going to voluntarily go and line up to be injected with poison to depopulate the Earth, everyone would have thought I'm crazy. But that's actually happening, and that's another part of their agenda is depopulation. And I think they want to get the population down by about 90% by about 2025 to 2030. And there's numerous ways they're going to do that. Another one that we haven't even talked about is war, which they're absolutely fomenting right now with what they're doing in Palestine with Israel. And you know, all the shipping starting to shut down. And that's the supply chains that Satan Klaus Schwab has been wanting to basically stop. They want to destroy basically everything here in their final years, their final sort of last chance. This is their last shot at doing like a completely satanic destruction of the entire world. And they're doing a pretty good job. They're spraying people right now in most of the Western countries nonstop with all kinds of very bad substances, and also substances that they're trying to block out the sun. Bill Gates has said he's trying to block out the sun, and now he says he wants to chop down all the trees because of climate change. And this is what they talk about, and this is the kind of stuff they do at the World Economic Forum type stuff, Davos. They want to make everyone into robots now and put chips into their brain, which isn't going to work out very well, by the way, when they do their cyber attacks, which Klaus Schwab's also warned us about that they're going to be doing. They're probably going to shut down the energy grid, which Barack Drone Bomber just put out a movie predicting that. And that's, you know, what's Barack, you know, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, what's he doing producing a movie about how the U.S. Power grid is going to go down and cause mass chaos? Well, this is all planned. This is predictive programming, and this is all. They're going to be trying to do all these things in the next few years. So if people are thinking, well, we got through the COVIDs, you know, they say the economy is doing well. It's not. You know, stock market's up because they printed like 200% more dollars in the last 5 years than ever existed before. So it's heading towards hyperinflation eventually. People are getting fooled by that. People are fooled in every single way. They're going to have the rug pulled out from them, and they're not going to be ready for it. Your average person will not be able to handle what's coming. It's going to be war. It's going to be supply chain shut down. It's going to be power grids shut off in some places. It's going to be these immigrants, sort of civil war types. It's not really a civil war, but like civil chaos type stuff. It's, you know, Doug always talks about how, you know, he's not really a doom and gloomer that much, and I'm not either. Actually, I actually think this is all almost meant to be, almost needs to happen. The people of the world have lost their for the most part, not everyone, have lost their connection with the Creator. And they're completely living materialistically. They've lost all connection. Most people are depressed, overweight because of the food, what they put in the food. They're now poisoning the food. They've been injecting the vaccine into a lot of the food in the U.S. They're trying to kill everyone in the U.S. right now. And But do I think it's all bad? It is what it is. I think that if you are prepared for it, if you do the self work on yourself, and if you're smart and you get in the right locations, you could do pretty fine. I'll bet Doug will be pretty fine on his farm in Uruguay through all of this. But your average person living in New York or LA or any major city in the West is going to have a really rude awakening to what the American dream has turned into.
Well, it is interesting because, on the one hand, cities are a wonderful invention. They're so convenient, they make it possible for civilization to advance. But on the other hand, when things go wrong, cities can be ultra dangerous because there's no food and there's lots of people with psychological aberrations. And if stuff doesn't come into cities in 3 days, you're looking at a cannibalistic type situation. So it's funny. Things have gotten so good for us over the last 100 years. And another thing, I was just thinking, the WEF people, the people that belong to that horrible organization, they're almost all rich and famous. And I've asked myself, why would really rich and famous and powerful people want to destroy the civilization that's put them in the situation they are now, which I think is what they're doing. And the only thing I can come up with is that these people must be evil, basically. And you've got to just define evil. It seems to me that evil is to be purposefully destructive. But why would they want to destroy the things that have put them on top of the totem pole? I mean, don't they see there's a possibility that the plebs could come out with pitchforks and torches and hang them upside down by their heels? It's a paradox to me. Or maybe there's something that resembles original sin. I don't believe in original sin. I'm not a religious person. That's just within the human psyche, where everybody looks around and says, there's just too damn many people around here. Like Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is other people. So I don't doubt that they really do want to reduce the human population by 90%, which a number of these people have said. But I can't be sure about any of this, Jeff. I can't be sure what's going on.
We are going to be opening up the floor for callers soon here at about the 40-minute mark. So we want to remind everyone, if you do have a comment or question for Jeff or Doug, we will be opening the floor soon. And then just to kind of follow up on what Doug's saying, Jeff, I know you put a piece of content out recently that I thought was pretty interesting. And there's actually someone here in the audience today who forwarded it to me and is like, ask Jeff what he thinks about this one again. You were kind of breaking down the Star of David and where that came from. Do you think that ties at all to what Doug's talking about?
Yeah, I would just start off by saying that I don't know what's going on either, Doug. It's there's 7-8 billion people, if you believe the numbers, on Earth. There's so many things going on. There's so many cults, which are religions and statism and all these sort of things that people believe in. They all act crazy. A lot of them have lost their connection. Sorry, someone's giving me some feedback on.
I might need to mute your mic there, Doug.
And there's a little mute mic is on button there.
This shows that I don't. This shows how little I know about my iPhone. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with technology. I love it on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's annoying. What's really annoying is my inability to use it properly. I pushed a button on my phone. What have I done to ruin things? Tell me.
I think the only thing that was kind of I was getting a little bit of feedback, but I'm not actually getting it right now. So I think maybe everything's fine. So I'll just continue on that.
Should I push this round thing at the bottom of my iPhone? Would that get me back on track somehow?
No,
I think
you're fine.
You're good, Doug.
You're fine.
I think you're good.
Okay. I can't see all the people that were lined up below. I mean, I hate to expose my ignorance, but like I said,
You're good. You're good.
me and my iPhone have a love-hate relationship. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think that actually brings up an interesting point of conversation is about technology. Technology has brought so many incredible things into our lives. Just for example, air conditioning is so nice. Indoor plumbing, even though it's not that technological, it's, that's that as far as it is technological, that's so nice. But I think a lot of people have gotten so entrapped into it that they've kind of lost their whole connection to life. And in that way, I think that a lot of people have technology has actually been a net negative for a lot of people because it's if you actually look at what's going on, it's actually leading people to do more and more destructive things, to become more unconnected from life. So I think it's actually good, Doug, that you don't even like to use the technology that much. I think I've said it many times. I consider all the time becoming Amish. I think it's such a better life in general, but yeah, as far as what these people believe and you can read so many things. I've just started down the rabbit hole on this. I had with the COVIDs, I had to kind of learn about the pharmaceutical industrial complex and that whole thing. And I learned a lot over the last few years. And I've learned that pretty much everything they give you makes you sick, and that and you can heal yourself with your own mind and by just putting the right things in your body, which most people don't. But now I've started to realize that I need to look into all these old cultures and cults and belief systems, and there's so much of it, and it's still all around. And talking about the flag of the Star of David, the more you look into the Jewish side of things, there's a lot of people who call themselves that are incredibly evil, anti-human type people. They consider anyone who's not them to be not even human. They actually believe that God has given them the right to enslave and kill them all. And that goes back to all kinds of stuff like a long time ago. There's all kinds of things you can look into. One book I'm reading right now that is absolutely fascinating is The Apocalypse of Yajnavalkya, which is actually written by a friend of mine. And it actually goes through how all of these belief systems happen and what actually was there before that. And then you get into Atlantis and what those people were. And they actually had technologies according to a lot of, like Plato talked about this. This is a lot of footnoted type information. This isn't just stuff he made up. That they knew how to travel instantaneously, teleport, they had telepathy. I think humans even do have a lot of those abilities still, but we've been so led astray by whatever forces for so long that most people are completely unaware that that's even a possibility. So what are these people doing? Well, a lot of them at these higher levels, they seem to believe that they want to destroy everything that God created. So they're kind of like satanic type people. And so when you say, why would someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who's worth billions of dollars, or Elon Musk, who's worth billions of dollars, why would they want to destroy everything on Earth? It's like, well, there's a sort of a deep down belief in they want to do those sort of things. And they actually get a lot of wealth from the same sort of people who believe these things to do these things. And they may not even know or even be aware of all the things that they're enabling, but they are doing a lot of these things. So I think what it comes down to is really recognizing that there's some incredibly, incredibly evil people, and they might not even be people on Earth, that want to destroy absolutely everything. And if you look just objectively at what's being done right now in so many ways and how it's been done, it seems to have been an agenda for a long period of time. And in this book that I'm reading, it's the Nephilim are the ones that are doing this, and they came from Atlantis, where they had all these technologies, but they were the evil ones. They wanted to destroy everything, and they're the ones that actually mostly control most of these things in the world today. Most governments, most central banks. banks, almost everything. They've really done a really good job of taking over almost everything. And but do I know what's actually in their minds or hearts, if they have any? I don't, and I'm sure every single person is kind of individual. But if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, he's building a $100 million bunker right now, and Elon Musk is talking about going to Mars to get away from what's going to happen. I don't even think that's possible, but it is. Anything's possible. They kind of are like that. Like if you even look at the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, I believe his name was, who looked just like a walking zombie by the end of his days. He said he wanted to come back as a virus and kill everyone on Earth. That's the kind of way that a lot of these people are, from a lot of these sort of bloodlines, from these that turned into sort of royalty, and have been putting in this oppressive and slavery type stuff everywhere, which we call government. That's kind of their beliefs, and it's kind of really hard to get your head around, especially if you're not aware of any of this stuff. But once you do and you start looking into it, it becomes fairly obvious that that's what they want to do, and that's what everything rolling out today is happening, in my opinion, is from this sort of a consciousness level. And like I said, though, I'm not worried about it at all. I don't worry about anything, because this life, just like Doug calls himself many times a solipsist, I think he's pretty much dead right on that. It's actually your own mind creating this entire world. So there's actually no reason to worry. There's not even a reason to be on this call. There's not even a reason to do anything except for just enjoy whatever moment you have to experience this, which you created yourself. And that's why I say that if people start changing themselves and do the work on themselves, the whole world will change, because we're all kind of creating this world, and we're all basically one thing. So I actually don't worry at all about any of this. If anything, as far as it goes in this human body that I'm still in at the moment, that I'm just going to enjoy it and take advantage of all the opportunities. And if there's ever been a incredible crisis investing opportunity, it's what's going on and what's coming as they do all these things. There's going to be incredible opportunities, but I'm not even sure the world will even be anything like it used to be once this is all over. There'll be hardly any people here. And so most of this stuff doesn't even really matter that much, but it is fascinating, I have to say. It's absolutely incredible to be alive at this moment in time and watching all these things happen and all the crazy stuff going on. Like for you, Doug, it must be so incredible just, during your lifetime to see what the world's turned into now. Because I know even for me, being born in 1970, like the 1980s were pretty just nice. It was like, it wasn't maybe nice everywhere, but there was none of this super evil stuff. Most people weren't totally insane. They weren't trying to chop off their genitals and chop off their kids' genitals. And it just seems like most of the world's gone pretty much insane. And it seems to have happened just in the last few decades. And it's absolutely incredible to be around and alive to see it all.
Yeah, well, in a way, we live in an entertainment society, and this is quite entertaining in a way. I've said for years that I just want to watch it all happen from my widescreen in the middle of nowhere in South America, as opposed to watch it out my front window in the U.S. And it's starting to happen. It does seem as I look at the way things have gone, that's just historically reading about things, which is all other people saying things and secondhand, but watching things firsthand in my own lifetime, it does seem that things have speeded up in a lot of ways. Things have started moving faster. It's some people have said that it's like immanentizing the eschaton. Are we moving towards a real apocalypse? Is there an end to history? Well, I don't know. On the other hand, even the universe is still just a pup, because I think about these things, and to the best of our knowledge, the universe is 13.5 billion years old. Okay, that's a long time. But how long will the universe live? Uh, they've come up with a lot of numbers, but it appears that it's got trillions and trillions and trillions of years ahead of it. So even the very universe that we live in is just a pup. And you know, a lot of these people talk about God, and I wonder when people say God, I say, which God? Is it Yahweh, the God of the Jews, or is it Jesus, the God of the Christians? Uh, can't be Allah, the God of the Mohammedans, because if you read what Allah says, he says very different things than what Yahweh or Jesus say. So which God is that we're talking about? Or is it Krishna or Shiva? Or actually, what kind of interests me as a god is Dr. Manhattan. Are you familiar with Dr. Manhattan, Jeff?
Not really, no.
Ah, in the illustrated comic book, illustrated novel, kind of a classy comic book that was called, can anybody help me here? I'm losing the name of that exact book. Uh, anyway, Dr. Manhattan, uh, born on
Well,
the earth, gets tired of the earth, and is enabled to go off
The
to
Watchmen?
other, the Watchmen. Yes, it was the Watchmen. And at the end of the book, he goes off to other galaxies to create life. So anything is possible, actually. Uh,
well, we're gonna go ahead and open up the floor for callers now. And Jeff, just to recap, I heard a little bit of what you were saying there too, and I remember when I first came across you, about a decade ago. A lot of what you're sharing here, I know you weren't talking about then, and for what it's worth, and I know we're kind of joking about God here, and I completely sympathetic to what Doug's saying as well, because it's like, who is God, right? But I think just being tapped into the spiritual realm and knowing that it probably does exist. I've just been very impressed with your work, Jeff, and maybe we might have to get Doug to Anarchapulco for an ayahuasca ceremony. Maybe that's where this leads to. So,
Adam, one of my great regrets is when I went to Anarchapulco, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that I didn't take a day off and do the ayahuasca thing. Could have, should have, would have. Uh, if I come back to Anarchapulco, it was a great show, a lot of fun, and I'll bet that it's a lot better now than when I went. And it was good, really good then. Yeah, I'm going to take a day off and do the ayahuasca thing.
Well, I would say be careful with that. Uh, you know, it's not an easy thing at all. uh, I'm just thinking about your age a little bit. Like for me, even personally, like if someone said, "Hey,
Jeff, that
Jeff, do
would
you
be
want to do
Jeff. Listen, don't worry about my age. That would be a great way to go out. Better than with
well,
better than with a bunch of tubes up your nose in a hospital. Forget
well,
about
Jeff,
that.
when I last time I was there, I was able to do that and the DMT ceremony as well. And I kid you not, the way the shaman set it up for the DMT ceremony, everyone would partner up with someone. Doug, I literally was partnered with a woman who was probably about 68 years old. She had never done a drug in her entire life, and for whatever reason, she was there at Anarchapulco, and she was
Wow.
my partner, and she was just fine on the DMT. So
Hmm.
there we go. But Larry, I see you are our first caller here today. So we just request to everyone calling in today, let us know where you're tuned in from, but also keep it limited to one question or comment just so we can get through everyone effectively. So, Larry, as we get you up here, as you're connecting, there we go. Larry, go ahead with your question and let us know where you're tuned in
Oh,
from.
I'm tuned in from Malaysia. You know it's late, and if I see your Doug and Berwick up in here, I'm tuning in. Definitely. Just wanted to touch in on some boots on the ground stuff about when you guys were talking about the whole migration situation. I was just in Africa, in East Africa, and some information came to me actually from a few sources. So what the young guys are doing out in East Africa is they get a Russian visa to go to school. So you can go through a few embassies. So you get the university, like It's like an acceptance letter to go. You get 40 days to touch it down on, I would say, BRICS nation, because it seems to me a lot of the work is happening through these BRICS countries. And so you go into Russia. The schools, you pay around $2,000, $3,000 is what they say. You land in Russia. You go straight to, you stay in for a couple of days. Liaison comes up. You get through Belarus, ride through. You get through, and then you get to Poland, which was kind of confusing because I thought Poland was clamping down on the entrances from there, but it's wide open. And then and then as soon as you land into the EU, you can get into any country. And so some guys decide, I spoke to a couple guys who said that a couple guys decided to stay in Russia, got some good skills, got some, literally go to school there and things like this, and then return back to Africa. And, I've asked them, this is crazy. I mean, you guys aren't going to Russia for school. Like, they're like, this is how to get through. But then there's another catch or caveat to this is once they get through the EU, they're encouraged to say they're climate migrants, right? So there's this climate aspect with it as well that's tied into that, and I found that pretty startling. And then so there's individuals there's the guys that get through to BRICS countries. I'd say Brazil, Ecuador is another path. Also, El Salvador recently dropped their entrance for Africans to come in. Young Africans can just come in, $1,000 fee. You just pay $1,000. You can come into El Salvador, and then from there they're out to the area that through the Panama. So yeah, and then for what Doug was saying about because I'm from Somalia, so I agree with Doug. With 200,000 Somalis, what's going on over there? And I'd like to answer that for him. We don't know what hard on the Norwegians have with Somalis. No clue. 200,000.
Larry, we
there.
just sorry, we've got a line piling up here, so just wondering.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is it seems to be all, like, the question is, because Doug was saying, where's everybody coming from? It seems orchestrated. It's been happening for a long, long time. Long time. Take people from the desert, you bring them to the snow. People and it's just, it's insane. It's insane. So it's orchestrated. It's not like these people want to go there. Many people are going back. But it is orchestrated. It looks like it's just a complete attack on all fronts.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for the clarity. Doug, Jeff, anything on that?
No, I can't add anything to that. What about you, Jeff? Any new thoughts?
No, but that's very interesting. I hadn't heard that. If that's true, I'm not surprised at all. There's definitely it's an orchestrated agenda to move all these people into Western countries. It's interesting if it's true that they're coming through Russia, which the whole USSR thing was about communism and stuff, which they don't really have anymore there in Russia. But it appears that if that's true, that they're still quite involved in wanting to destroy the West for whatever reason. And actually, I actually think it's probably a good thing to destroy, especially the U.S. government and the Israel government. And the EU government. These are like three of the most dangerous things that have ever existed on Earth, and evil things. But yeah, no, that's very interesting information. Thank you.
The Economic Truth, good to see you again. Let us know where you're calling in from and what your one question is for Jeff or for Doug. You're on mute right now.
Hey, I'm just calling in from Manitoba, Canada. Hey, my question is the grand cycle of life, in civilization seems to be going between centralization to decentralization of society. Where do you guys think that we're at in that cycle?
Well, I can speak first on this. It's that there are many ways of looking at this. One way of looking at it is that in primitive times, we've gone from 100% theft to now just 50% theft with the government. And eventually, if we become really civilized, we'll live in a zero theft society. So from a long-term point of view, morally, maybe things are getting better. Of course, you can build another case more recently. 100 years ago, all over the world, governments were just trivial nuisances where they'd take maybe 5% of the economy were controlled by governments. Now it's 50%. So things have been getting worse from that point of view. So choose your time frame. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just like I said, there's so many interesting, amazing things going on. Not all of them are bad at all. What we've seen in the last even 5 years, the COVID's thing really was one of the best things that could ever have happened to people like myself who've been trying to tell people about this whole agenda. A lot of people didn't quite believe it until they got all locked down in martial law, mostly across the world, all in unison. And you're starting to see people questioning, and this is all part of the apocalypse, in my opinion, the lifting of the veil, for the first time actually questioning what these governments are actually doing and what the value of them actually are. In the U.S., I think the amount of people who consider what they see on the mainstream media to be actually true or good information is like now less than 10% or something. So you're actually seeing a lot of people starting to wake up to what's actually going on, and that's going to have massive ramifications. I'm surprised we haven't brought up Milei in Argentina yet, but he ran on anarcho-capitalist ideas, which is, before Doug, hardly anyone had ever even heard of it. There was just a few people that were even talking about these sort of things like 30 or 40 years ago. Rothbard and Doug and Jeffrey Tucker was around, and a few others, and maybe Doug could add to that list. But
Harry Brown
yeah,
would be Harry Brown would be one other big name, I've got to say, Jeff.
Yeah, I always forget to mention him. I guess because I didn't really have much contact with him, so I kind of always forget that. But you're right, Doug. From what I've looked into of him, and now you have a person who ran on completely anarcho-capitalist ideas and was packing arenas with people who were super excited, very much like what happened with Ron Paul, who didn't even fully run on anarcho-capitalist ideas. He ran on mostly minarchist free market ideas, and he was packing arenas. So the people are, and I think Ron Paul really made a massive contribution to these ideas, and it actually started millions of people to look into these things. And now you're seeing that in Argentina as well. So we're seeing people finally starting to realize that one of the answer is getting rid of the government altogether. That's pretty darn new in, as far as I can tell, well, my lifetime, and probably for a long time before that, except for I'm sure many individuals probably did believe that, but it was not a big thing. So we're seeing a lot of people starting to actually get to the truth. We've seen them go through this democracy thing. They'll go back and forth, and Trump gets in, doesn't really do anything different. Then Biden, and he does horrible stuff. Then Trump will probably come back in again, even though they're trying to stop him. But it's all a show, in my opinion. I think there's an agenda behind that as well. Yeah, we're seeing a huge amount of people starting to wake up to the ideas that Doug's been talking about for decades, which is nothing but awesome. It's the only thing that can actually save a lot of this world at this point. It's unfortunate that people wait until the last minute to open their eyes to it, but there's massive things. And then you look at the cryptocurrencies talking about decentralization. Bitcoin is founded on very anarcho-capitalist ideas of decentralizing the money system. And with very, very free market, most of the people involved in Bitcoin, especially in the early days, were all anarcho-capitalists. And look at how that's changing the world dramatically. And now you have Klaus Schwab just said, like last week, that libertarianism is pretty much their biggest obstacle at this point, and that people are wanting to tear down all of their systems. And so this is an incredible moment in time. And what I think generally might happen is that we're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff happening over the next few years, and it could be war type stuff. It could be complete collapse of the economy type things. But we're also going to see numerous pockets of incredible sort of liberty-related stuff. For example, Liberland, that's another country that's almost becoming recognized in many places now, which is a completely anarcho-capitalist country. So we're going to see some incredible, beautiful things happening. I think during the next few years, we're going to see things that will shock absolutely everyone. You won't even believe what's going to happen, but you will also see things that will be just incredible and beautiful happen, and that'll be most of the freedom-related things that will be popping up. Because just like with everything in life, there is a yin and a yang to everything, and we've had far, far too much of the collectivist centralization type things over the last few decades, and we're seeing the snapback to that now in some respects. And so, it's going to be incredibly interesting. And now that we have the internet, we can decentralize even more. Doug talks about files, which is really how people should organize themselves, which is just with people who are of like minds. We don't need to be organized in geographic regions as much anymore, or in those sort of ways. And so, yeah, we're going to see so many incredible things. And we haven't even got into Malay yet, but there's going to be.
It seemed like you might have cut out there, Jeff, but we'll just take a moment here to remind everyone. Thank you for tuning in here to ANCAP Radio. We're going to be going live for about another half hour till the 30-minute mark. So if you do have questions you want to get up here, again, all you got to do is tap the request button at the bottom of the screen. Again, if you're live or on the replay, be sure to hit the like button, the retweet button, get this one out in front of the ears and eyes around you. We're with Doug Casey and Jeff Berwick today. And on the note of Javier Milei, actually next week, because we go live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll be joined by Doug, your good friend Luis Kenny, who has lived in Argentina his whole life. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of get his take on how all of this Milei stuff has come together.
Well, Luis, who will be on next week, is a kind of a big deal lawyer here in Argentina. And I was just talking to him earlier today, and he points out that one of the things Milei is doing, I know there are reasons to be suspicious of Milei. The fact that he hugged Zelensky, I mean, horrible human being, Zelensky. What was he doing hugging Zelensky? And what was he doing having lunch with Bill Clinton, of all people? And so these are suspicious things. But maybe that's just a psychological aberration on Milei's part. I don't know. But one thing he's done that Luis has pointed out, and he'll go into this in a lot more detail next week on the show, is Milei he's abolishing wholesale all kinds of regulations in Argentina. It's not just that he's gotten rid of half of the departments and fired their heads, and maybe some of the people in those departments which serve no useful purpose at all. Maybe a lot of them have been subsumed into other departments. I don't know. We'll find out from Luis. But Malay's doing things like, for instance, Argentina had for the last 10 or 15 years, a law that says that no foreigner can buy land in Argentina that is the equivalent of more than 1,000 hectares in Buenos Aires province. Now, of course, you go out into the desert provinces, you could buy 50,000 hectares because that's the equivalent dollar-wise of 1,000 hectares in BA province, which is where the pampas are with the thick topsoil. But he's abolished all that. Now, Argentina has a complete free market in land. This is a huge thing. He abolished the law that said that a foreigner can't own anything within, was it 50 kilometers of the border with another country or the ocean. That's abolished too. He's abolished dozens of things like that already. He's privatizing all the parastatal corporations, initially putting them. I hope he distributes the shares pro rata to every man, woman, and child in the country. Because if he does that, it'll be very hard to renationalize them again. But no, he's walking the walk, not just talking the talk so far.
Okay, well that's good to hear, and yeah, it'll be nice to hear. excuse me, Luis's take just from living there his whole life as well. So, Jod, you've been patiently waiting here. I know our team's working on tracking Jeff to get him back up here as well. But just let us know, Jod, where you're tuned in from, and what your one question is.
What's going on, guys? I'm actually calling from Morocco. This is my new residence, my new country of choice. There's two things. I wanted to comment first and say that more of this is tied to religion than people would like to think. I tend to try to stay away from the topic of religion. I studied it academically, and I tend to feel non-religious people kind of feel, provoked in a way if God is brought up. And for that reason, I just try to avoid it. But the fact of the matter is, the higher you get into the power structure, these people actually are religious, or rather spiritual. Not religious in the sense of, Christianity or the monotheistic religions or the Abrahamic faiths. They are very spiritual. They're very satanic. They do believe in Satan. Now, I could cite sources, but I'd rather leave that for the listener to find out. Another thing is, regardless of what they do, and this is a conclusion I came to, and it's not a question, it's just something I wanted to touch up upon. You have to appreciate the fact that if you are, I guess, spiritual or religious or whatnot, you could actually, from time and again, just genuinely feel gratitude about your situation. And this is a lot of what Jeff talks about. And you have many reasons too. But the thing is, with these people who are constantly seeking power, they're always in a state of need. They could never genuinely say from their hearts, thank God, or, things are great. They could just never sincerely feel gratitude. And no matter what they do, we shouldn't, it's easy to get caught up, but we shouldn't let ourselves get caught up, mainly for that reason, amongst many others. But you do want to dodge the bullet, obviously. But a lot of what Jeff talks about, the self-work, I get a lot of this from my own personal beliefs, and it works wonders. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. And just keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I was going to ask the caller, when you talk about religion and God and this type of thing, to me, the bottom line is, what do you think happens after you shed this mortal coil and after you die? What do you think happens, if anything?
Well, here's the thing. This is my conclusion with God. With anything in anything that's invented, a car, a refrigerator. Jeff talked about the great advances of technology. The fridge is a great invention. The washer and dryer. Everyone who invented these things, they know exactly how to use it in a way where it functions best to get the most out of it. Now, I refuse to believe this universe, as complex as it is, as fascinating. If you ask me, the simplest thing in nature will dwarf the greatest of engineering marvels. That's just me. Like if you look at the wings of a butterfly, or if you look at the leaves of the petal of certain trees under a microscope, or if you look at the root system in the soil of certain trees, I mean, to me,
I'm with you. That's all true. But
yeah.
my question
All
is,
right. So
what if anything
this is my
happens
point.
after you? What if anything happens after you die?
Yeah, I think we're gonna go back to the person who created this very thing that we exist, and I mean, because of the level of sophistication and complexity we exist in now, I find it only to make sense that whoever it is we go back to, who brought about this complexity, has the knowledge to discern amongst his creation in a fashion that suits him best. And it's a knowledge that probably, I mean, we haven't even fully discovered the depths of the ocean or the stars. I feel when you take that knowledge of such a creator, he's going to know what to do with us in the end. And we're going to be judged amongst one another down
Okay.
to the very most minute thought, I believe. And to me, it's
Looks like you might have muted yourself there. Doug.
Okay.
oh, sorry about that.
Well,
Yeah, I
anyway,
was saying to me,
those are all
John.
good
that's
Let
thoughts.
Doug.
just
Can you let Doug
a
go?
rational conclusion I arrived to.
Thanks,
Okay,
John.
no, those are all good thoughts, and there are many opinions on the nature of the universe, and but like I said, I'd like somebody to give me positive assurance, one way or the other, about what happens after you die. That'll answer a lot of questions. I have one friend, uh, Greg Sams. He's British, and he wrote a book that's worth reading called "The Son of God." Uh,
Yes.
S-S-U-N of God, not S-O-N of God.
Gotcha.
And one of the things he puts across is that here we are on planet Earth, which is just a tiny little smidgen in this galaxy. Forget about the roughly 2 trillion other galaxies as big as the Milky Way. And Greg is of the opinion that the stars are living beings communicating with each other. That's one possibility. Other people believe that each person is actually, we don't have a soul, we are a soul, and we're just trapped in bodies. And there are many beliefs about the nature of spiritual reality. So it's good if you have one. It's like Frank Sinatra said, anything that gets you through the night. So, okay, who's next? Who's next, Adam?
We've got a longtime listener and caller, Jaffer. Jaffer, let us know where you're tuned in from and what your question is for Doug and Jeff.
Thank you, Adam, and I'm calling from Montreal, Canada. Well, a straight answer to Doug about his questions. I will say you have to look into the Gnostic view and the Gnostics in general, and why they always have been banned and chased everywhere. There is, I think, an interesting answer about that. Second, I want to give a little tribute to Jeff. Thank you, Jeff, for what you are doing and all the stuff you are saying. And let me tell you that I vibrate in the same frequency like yours. I have a question for you, and the question is, what is your definition of ANCAP philosophy? Okay, except saying that there is no ruler, there are rules, but no ruler. But do you have something else about that? Thank you.
Well, I guess Jeff isn't on the call for some reason right now.
We've got him back here now. He's here.
Oh, good.
I'm here now.
Oh,
but you go ahead, Doug, because that's a better question for you.
Yeah, well, ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist. So capitalists believe in free markets and free exchange and progress, things of that nature. Anarchists have gotten a bad name because the European tradition of so-called anarchy, people like Bakunin and Kropotkin, for instance, they're very good on social freedom, but they don't understand economics. They're not capitalists. So anarchism. ANCAPs take the best of both traditions, social freedom and economic freedom. So briefly, I don't know, Jeff, what do you want to say on that?
Yeah, it's very simple. That's basically it. Total freedom, um, and freedom, against people who want to take away those freedoms from you. And of course, a lot of people will say, "Well, there's always going to be bad guys who will," and you're totally right. But my beliefs personally are that every human interaction should be voluntary. It shouldn't be using violence or coercion, which rules out pretty much every government except for the government of Lieberland, and maybe Argentina at some point, but not yet. And yeah, it's a very, very simple sort of philosophy that, as Doug pointed out, both the words anarchy and capitalism have been totally misconstrued by most people. So I don't actually use it all that much anymore. I appreciate people who do. Of course, Anarchapulco has that in its title quite a bit, but most people just don't even understand it. And but it's just basically means that people shouldn't organize and try to enslave other people or steal their stuff. That's basically it.
What about the power of the state and the regulation power of the state? Like, for example, you have big pharma companies, okay, greedy companies that they are private companies, of course, and in a perfect uncapped state or country or community, how could you let these companies act as they are doing, like funding universities, scientists, and things like that, and doing harm for the people? So, how in a perfect uncapped country or society could you regulate them?
Well, in a perfect ANCAP society, you wouldn't regulate anything. That's the whole idea. The government has absolutely nothing to do with the economy. And
I know
these
that.
big and these big companies started out, incidentally, doing very excellent and productive things, developing antibiotics that'll save your life and surgical techniques that'll save your life. So there's nothing against these big greedy companies, and there's nothing wrong with greed. Greed is good, as Gordon Gekko said in the movie. The problem is when these people hook themselves up with the state and use the state to force other people to buy their products or to quash competition from new companies. Look, anarcho-capitalism. Jeff just said this. Both the words anarchy and capitalism are totally misunderstood. Anarchy doesn't mean chaos. It simply means the lack of rule. And capitalism doesn't mean, most people think that capitalism is all about big companies working with the government. That's not. It's a total free market where the government doesn't exist. So I think you've got a few things confused, frankly, based on your question.
No, believe me, I see it very clear, and I confirm that, for example, in Europe, in France, for example, anarchy is a bad word, and the science it means chaos, if you want. Yes. However, I'm just thinking about the perfect uncapped society, how it could work with greed involved and a lot of private companies and things like that. There is a regulation question. Who is going to regulate when something goes wrong, or when a private society goes wrong and is too greedy and is too harmful for the people? This is just the question.
Well, first of all, let me say again, there's nothing wrong with being greedy. Greed is actually good. It means you
I
want.
approve.
Okay.
I approve.
Right.
I'm myself greedy.
Okay. All right. Well, let me answer the question by referring you to a book. We were talking about Javier Milei here in Argentina before. The book that actually changed his mind and turned him into an anarcho-capitalist is a book called The Market for Liberty by Morris and Linda Tannehill. You can find it if you Google The Market for Liberty by Tannehill. you'll find the book that converted Millet. And I recommend you read that book. It will answer your question of exactly how a society works without government. So
I
download
would
that book.
just,
It's free.
yeah,
100
I would,
pages. It's 100 pages. It's a short read. It's a day's
yeah,
read.
it's like a pamphlet. I definitely recommend it. It was probably the first thing that really ignited my mind with the possibilities. But as far as the way you pose the question, who should regulate if things get too greedy? Well, Doug kind of pointed out there's nothing wrong with greed. If what it is they want to make more profit by providing people with more things, that's a good thing. The whole problem comes down to the human feel of a need to regulate. As long as people are doing things that are not harmful to other people, they should be able to do anything they want. And the whole idea of regulating something is something that a lot of people have a big problem with because it sounds scary, right? Well, there's no one in charge. Well, you just have to look at what actually happens when you put a government in charge of regulating things. What happens? It turns into the worst possible things ever. These giant corporations now are some of the worst things around. They wouldn't even exist without the government. So the actual regulation of things should be done by the market itself, and that's done by everyone deciding for themselves what they want to put their energy towards, which is currency, to decide. And we're actually seeing a lot of that right now with what's going on in Israel. A lot of people are stopping buying Israeli goods, for example. That's actual real democracy. That's actually a really good thing. And the market can do it all itself and actually do it amazingly well. And actually, it's the only way it can be done as fairly as possible is without things like a violent organization regulating something. As soon as you have humans, and then you'll have like Satan Class and all them say, well, yeah, the computer should regulate everything. It's like, well, it's basically the same thing, but it's even worse then. The problem is that a lot of people still can't get their heads around a completely, truly free world and a free market, and it sounds scary to them. And as long as that lasts, we're going to continue to have governments, we're going to continue to have regulations, and we're going to continue to have all the horrible things they bring, which is just unfortunate. But I don't know when I got cut off earlier, but I was pointing out that a lot of people are waking up to these ideas now, and so we could see just like with communism, it was almost nothing, and within a few decades, just people chatting in like back rooms, it became like a major thing in the world, and then hundreds of millions of people died because of it. But with these ideas, we could actually see a real incredible sort of a movement towards these ideas and having them happen. And things like cryptocurrencies, by the way, they are enabling people to do these sort of things, to allow the market to regulate itself. The very notion of a government regulating cryptocurrencies is the most ridiculous thing, because the cryptocurrencies themselves regulate themselves, because if people stop using Bitcoin, then it's not worth anything. That's the real way that people can, in some ways, control what they see as being good or bad in the world, and none of it needs to be used with violence.
And you made a very good point earlier, Jeff, and that is that I heard this, but I forgot about it, that the Schwabenklaus actually came out against libertarians. And in the past, these people didn't even acknowledge the existence of libertarians. Now they realize that we're the enemy because we've grown enough. The consciousness of the public has grown enough that Klaus has to denounce libertarians. So that's a very favorable thing.
Right. And
Yeah.
and typically what we end up seeing is it only adds fuel to the fire, and it will do the opposite of at least what appears they're intending to do. So, Jeff, I just wanted to say thank you for that question, by the way. I know you're always tuned in here, so appreciate you, man. And that's really a good contribution to today's conversation. So, Kest, you're our last caller for today. Could you just unmute and let us all know where you're tuned in from and what your question for Doug or for Jeff is?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'm from the United States. I'm from Oklahoma. And Jeff, I've been listening to you for a while. This is kind of crazy that I'm able to ask a question to you. But Um, I know you guys are truth seekers, and that's what I consider myself as well. And in this world where we have access to so much information, um, there's so many compelling arguments for different sides of things. So this, in my quest for the truth, confuses me a lot of the times. I'll think I'll know the truth, and then I'll come across a compelling argument that makes me think otherwise. So my question for Jeff and Doug is, how do you ground yourself in something? How do you what makes you guys be able to manage all this information, all these different points of views? How can I cuz when you when you finally think you found the truth, that kind of grounds you, and you're able to kind of manage the environment around you, and from there decide what goals you have, what you value in life. But then something comes across just because of the nature of searching for the truth, and it kind of just slingshots me elsewhere. So how do you guys manage all this information and kind of ground yourself in something? Thanks.
Oh, that's a deep question. I don't think I ever know the truth, but I always try to search for it and try to find it. As far as all the information out there, there's actual skills that you can do that we actually talk about in our Game Changers program, for example, related to things like critical thinking and how to actually discern things using your rational mind. I would also say that you can also use your intuition and your instinct as well. That's actually just as actually it's far more intelligent, far more intelligent than your mind. But I would say the basic thing is just to have certain basic principles. That's what makes everything quite easy for me. I can see if something's good or bad, in my opinion, based on what it does. And if it uses any sort of physical violence, or even not even physical, any sort of violence or coercion or theft, then I don't think it's legitimate or good or anything that should be supported. And from just that alone, you can just look at almost anything, and everything becomes quite simple. Any sort of government thing, a vote, if they're going to have a vote on should we legalize marijuana, for example, it's like, well, what's that mean? Well, they're saying they're going to stop using their monopoly on violence and their criminal enterprise to use guns to stop people from having a plant. It's like, well, that's good. A lot of things, it boils down quite simply and easily. Like, I'm not confused about very many things in this world when I have just those basic principles, which is what Doug talks a lot about, which is just what are your principles? That's a key thing for every individual to ask themselves. What do you consider your principles? And most people have never even thought about it. What do you think about that, Doug?
Total agreement, Jeff, and well stated. And you mentioned critical thinking. And the way I define critical thinking is that when anything troubles you or confuses you, or what you've got to do is start asking questions. Ask questions and get to the bottom of things, not just with accepting a fob off or bullshit answer, but ask questions, and somebody answers the questions, and ask more questions. And that's critical. The process of critical thinking is asking questions and getting solid answers. That's how I think you find the truth. But I completely agree with what Jeff said.
It's phenomenal stuff, and thank you, Callcast, for getting up here. And we're happy you're able to get your question in there. Be sure to follow ANCAP Radio, because just as far as getting clear on the philosophy of anarcho-capitalism, or as I even heard Jeff say one time, just really living your best life, right, through the lens at which many of us see. That's our mission here. And if you guys go to ancapradio.com right now as well, you'll see the site is under construction, but you can drop your email in there for updates. There's also a link below to subscribe to ANCAP Radio updates as well. The website will be ready soon. Doug, Jeff, this has been great going back and forth here today. Let's just kind of go over key takeaways one at a time, and then we'll get out of here. So I guess we'll go age before beauty. Doug, what really stood out most to you today from the conversation?
Well, I was tickled pink to see the number of people that tapped into this station from around the world. And with a little bit of luck, as we advance the sophistication of this site, we'll get thousands and thousands of people from around the world, and we'll get to know each other and form a group that can perhaps do things that are interesting. So I'm tickled pink with the way things went today. Jeff?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. As we mentioned earlier, these ideas weren't very well known even 10 years ago. 30 years ago, hardly at all. And now it's getting a lot of people are starting to realize that what we've been talking about is the best philosophy out there. And it's definitely growing, as I pointed out earlier. So we have Anarchapulco coming up in February 12th to 16th. It's everything about anarcho-capitalism, but way more than that as well. But we have people like Max Egan speaking. David Icke will be speaking virtually. Larkin Rose is an excellent speaker on voluntarism and anarcho-capitalism. Vich Adlika, the president of Liberland, will be there. Charlie Robinson, who wrote the book with me. There's so many people. And if you can't make it, we would definitely encourage you to get the virtual ticket, and you can watch all the talks for the entire week on your own time. By doing that, you also support basically the movement. Basically, Davos has trillions of dollars at its disposal because they control all the governments and the central banks, and they're talking about the exact opposite of what we're talking about here. They're talking about a great reset, which we're kind of talking about as well, but they want it to be a one world government run by computers that will enslave everyone on Earth. And what we're talking about is 8 billion governments on Earth, everyone with complete sovereignty, and the more peace and prosperity than the world has ever seen if people catch on to this. So definitely appreciate if people support what we're doing. We're in our 10th year at Anarchapulco. I can't believe we made it this long. It's been just crazy, all the things we've had to go through. Every single year, including this year, being hit by a weather weapon, which I think I'm almost positive it was on purpose by the globalists. So that's the kind of people, the kind of forces that we're facing. But I'll definitely appreciate ANCAP Radio that keep getting these ideas out there. They're growing dramatically, and the more people who hear about them, the better the world will change, and the better that people can not only survive what's coming, because that's going to be a major issue, but also prosper through what's coming. And I would just end it with doing the self work is what's the most important. Actually, nothing else is more important than that. And doing that hard work, looking at yourself, meditating, trying to connect, trying to just quiet the mind, which can just basically enslaves you. That's one thing that I've learned over the years that Anarchapulco has really turned into, and that's why we have DMT and ayahuasca and those sort of things at Anarchapulco to help people break out of the mind, which basically enslaves you, and which is actually creating pretty much this whole world. So it's a pleasure, as always, to be on with Doug Casey, who I always consider to be my mentor, even though I've never asked him to be my mentor. But ever since I first read his articles in the 1990s, I said, I don't know who this is, but I didn't know you could think this way. And it's just an honor and a pleasure that 25 years after I first heard about him, I'm still out here and on a call with him, talking to other anarcho-capitalists. It's a beautiful thing, and thank you so much to ANCAP Radio for having me on.
And Jeff, we want to thank you, and what you're doing at Anarchapulco is heroic, and I can't say enough good about it. So I hope everybody shows up that's on this call now.
100%. As an attendee myself, I've got to endorse it one more time. If you guys have not gone to anarchapulco.com right now to grab your tickets, it's a must attend. Excuse me. I have not enough fingers to count the amount of resources, connections, and tools for daily life that I was able to apply from learning there. One of the best conferences, if not the best, especially for ANCAPs around the world. So, Jeff, Doug, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll do this again sometime soon. It was a lot of fun, and Everyone, thank you. Make sure you hit the like button, the retweet button, and we'll see you next week with Luis Kenny here on ANCAP Radio. We're going to dive into some Javier Milei stuff, if you will. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Okay. It's fun.